Hey guys, I want to welcome you to my new channel, and this is the first video. So, most of you know me from my original channel, Monkey Steals Peach, where I've been travelling around China and other parts of Asia, documenting different styles of Chinese martial arts. But I wanted to expand beyond that and make videos about other topics as well, besides Chinese martial arts. But I didn't want to alienate my existing audience. I know that a lot of people are not interested in some of these other things that I want to cover. So I thought, rather than making these off-topic videos on the main channel, I thought I'd set up this second channel, Monkey Exits Cave, which is going to be more about my own personal exploration. So there's going to be like travel, culture, just basically anything else that I feel like exploring and that I'm interested in. So, if you're completely new to this, make sure to check out the original channel, Monkey Steals Peach. And if you've just come over from Monkey Steals Peach, then welcome to this channel. And I appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button just to help this new channel get on its feet. So, for this first video, I want to talk about this wilderness survival course that I just did this past weekend, and some of the things that I learned, some of the challenges that I faced, and some ways in which it caused me to grow as a person. And also I want to give a shout out to the company High and Wild. I'll leave a link in the description below, and you can just Google the name High and Wild, or you can look on Instagram as well. And a big shout out to the two guides, Dylan and Ben, who did a fantastic job. Great leaders, very knowledgeable people, really good bushcraft skills and just knowledge of the land. So these guys were fantastic and made a really memorable experience. So this video is going to be a little bit different in style to my previous videos as well, because I was very conscious that this was like an off-grid survival experience, and there was a group of about 13 of us plus the two guides, so I didn't want to be sticking my camera in everyone's face every 2 minutes, constantly filming every moment, and also for me myself, I wanted to really be in it and immersed in it and sort of get back to nature and stuff as well. So as a result, the footage I did get was just filmed on my phone. And it was a little bit patchy, just little bits here and there, just some highlights and stuff. So I thought what I'd do is I'd just talk through the experience instead. So basically we camped out in this place called Gooches Crater. There's no trail, road, path or anything there. You basically just have to hike through the bush. Very, very thick bush, very difficult terrain. I think it was a good 5 kilometers, the hike to get in there. And yeah, that in itself was a very big challenge. You've got your pack, you've got all your equipment that you're carrying. Really rough terrain. It was raining most of the time. The ground was very slippery. The bush was really thick. We had to traverse over creeks where there's, just a few sticks laid across it. On the hike in as well, besides that whole physical challenge of just the actual hike itself, the guides didn't just lead us straight there. They taught us some orientation skills and basically just let us do our thing, so it was kind of up to us to actually find our way in, and they were just giving course correction if we went wrong. So that was a pretty cool challenge as well. But it did make it more difficult, and it did make it take a lot more time. When we finally got in there, we had a simple lunch, just some sandwiches and stuff that we'd carried in. And then in the afternoon, we started to learn some of the bush survival skills. So the first thing that we did was learning how to build a lean-to shelter. Dylan and Ben explained that one of the most important things is keeping yourself sheltered and dry and warm. So when it comes to building a shelter, the main thing you want to do is find some existing kind of surface, say the side of a the side of a cliff or steep hill, or even just a large tree, just something that can provide one natural barrier. And then you just take like a very large stick and you just lean it to like a 45-degree angle. And then from there you start to lay more sticks and things on top, and you basically create just like a roof like that, and just a small entrance at the front that you can come in and out. And then they explain to us the different kinds of ferns that grow in the Blue Mountains. And the one that you want to use for insulation is bracken fern, because the leaves are kind of thicker and coarser, and they provide like they create, when you pile them together, they create like these air pockets that help insulate, and they also maintain their shape a lot better than other ferns that are just squashed right down. So you want to use those for your bedding to just give you a little bit of separation from the ground, so that you're not losing so much heat to that, and that helps to insulate, keep you warm a bit. So that was the first thing that we learned to do, was make one of these lean-to shelters. And then some of the other skills that we learnt was the traditional Aboriginal way of making a fire, which was using a stick and rotating the stick to create friction, and then lighting up embers, and then once that's lit, then you can light your kindling from that and build a fire. And then one of the other skills we learnt was making natural cordage, which you could use for tying things up and all sorts of things, but I just ended up making making a bracelet from it. Basically, you use any sort of fibrous-y long leaf or even bark of certain trees, but we were using a very fibrous-y thick grass, almost like a reed. I can't remember the name of it, but it is a very common one that you find all over Australia, and you're basically just plaiting it together, and you can make very, very strong cordage with that. We also learnt how to find safe, clean drinking water. So one of the interesting things that I'd never considered before was puddles. Like, you can actually, if there's puddles that are in an area where there's not really any source of pollution, there's not any dead animals around, they're quite shallow puddles, and it's been raining recently, so you know that the water's fresh, then you can generally drink from those puddles. And we did. It was funny, when we were coming in, like, one of the guides was knelt downside drinking from this puddle straight away, and we were like, oh my god, that's gross. But when we came back out on day 2, we were so exhausted and so dehydrated that as soon as we saw these puddles on the top of this ridge, everybody in the group just like bent down, started just slurping it up. We learned other methods as well, like collecting condensation, using the roof of your tent or something like that, plastic bag to collect condensation from trees and things like that, transpiration from trees. Then we also learnt how to differentiate between water sources like creeks and streams and rivers and stuff, how to determine whether they are safe for drinking or not. So how to, knowing about what the catchment area is, where the water's coming from, is it coming from an urban area and running down into the wilderness where you are, so there may possibly be pollution, are there any dead animals nearby, anything like that. And then the last part of that was learning how to make a water filter. So we were using a plastic bottle with the bottom cut off. You can even just use a sock, or basically just anything. And so what you do is, first of all, you stuff it with bracken ferns to make a nice thick layer that will trap any little bits in it. Then secondly, you want to take charcoals from your fire, but they have to be complete charcoals, it can't still be like wood. And then you make a layer of charcoals with no space in between, because charcoal absorbs impurities, and actually a lot of water filters you use in your home are actually charcoal based ones too. And then the final layer on top is to use sand. And it was quite interesting because we actually took some water from a pretty muddy, dirty creek, and we tested our water filters, You had to run it through 2 or 3 times, but you did get pretty clean water afterwards. And the guides basically explained to us that there's kind of, you know, you need to weigh up the risks, like how dehydrated are you, how much do you need water, versus the chance of there being bacteria or parasites, which should be quite low if it's you know, if they're these kind of creeks that I've just mentioned. And then you know, if you're still not comfortable after having used that water filter, you can still boil the water, or you could even just leave it in the strong sun for a period of time so that the UV light could kill anything. So those were basically the skills that we learnt. But I think for me, you know, I went on this trip with the intention of wanting to learn these bushcraft skills, but having come out of it, what I think I really got from it was the overall experience was such a huge physical challenge. I mean, as I say, the hike itself and especially going out, you know, having not really ate very much, not really slept very well, and the bad weather conditions. It was raining, it was slippery, it was not freezing cold, but a little bit chilly. You know, just that exhaustion and that, you know, intense hike. And also I have a really bad fear of heights. So I was really out of my comfort zone, because some of the ridges that we walked along, you know, there was big sheer drops into the canyon beneath. Sometimes we were really clambering along the edge, and you know, I was really uncomfortable with that. And there was a couple of times where honestly I didn't want to go on, and I actually lost it with the guide at one point, just because of my fear of heights. But you know, he encouraged me to push on, and you know, gave me the kick up the ass I needed. And afterwards I had this huge sense of accomplishment and having conquered that fear, because had I have not been in that situation where there was pretty much no going back, I wouldn't have pushed myself to just conquer that, and to actually like keep going and clamber around this cliffside, which was absolutely terrifying. It was horrible. It was a horrible experience. But once I got out the other side, just, you know, how good I felt. It kind of took me back to the first time I ever did full contact sparring in martial arts. You know, just that sense of having overcome this huge barrier, this huge limitation in my life. So I think really that challenge was the biggest thing that I got from it. And once I got back to Sydney Sunday night, I was exhausted, but I was honestly just buzzing. I was really buzzing, because I just felt this huge sense of like, wow, you know, like I've just put myself through this huge challenge. And it's kind of like, you know, in life we give ourselves these challenges, but we end up also becoming comfortable in what other people would consider a challenge. So like for me, moving to China when I was 18, at the time that was a huge challenge, you know, massive thing. I didn't speak Chinese, I'd never traveled before, I didn't have any idea about this foreign society, but you know, I landed there, I put myself in that situation, I grew and I thrived. But you know, having then done that and going to other countries as well, that became something that was already a sort of comfort zone for me. You know, maybe for other people that would be a huge challenge, but for me, this had already become an area of life where I was already kind of thriving. So I'd sort of plateaued as far as that growth. And the same thing with martial arts. You know, when I began Chinese martial arts, it was a huge challenge. It was very daunting, but and the sparring, as I said before. But it's like once you get used to that environment, suddenly that's not such a challenge anymore. So for me, this was something completely alien, completely different, something I've never done before. I mean, I've done like stuff as a kid, you know, like going to the Lake District in England on like school camps and stuff. But I mean, you know, this was a lot more dangerous and a lot more extreme than that. So, you know, it was this whole new challenge, and it got me thinking. The guides that run this, while for me this was a huge challenge, but for them that was already their comfort zone. I mean, they were talking about how they would just go off with a small pack into the wilderness alone, you know, for several days. Sometimes not even taking a tent, just, you know, camping out, you know, making their own shelters and stuff. So that's already the kind of comfort zone where they're thriving. But, you know, you put them in my situation and send them off to go live in China or South Korea or whatever other country, you know, that's going to be a huge challenge for them. So I guess the conclusion that this experience has given me is that in order to keep growing and keep moving forward in life, we need to always find different kinds of challenges for ourselves. You know, not just sticking to one sort of limited area. And that's kind of why I want to start this new channel, because I want to, you know, every once in a while I want to give myself some kind of different challenge. And the other one, you know, I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a couple of weeks ago, and that's also been a big challenge for me in a very new, you know, new environment. So yeah, that was my wilderness survival experience. That was very revealing for me, and something that's caused me to grow as a person immensely. So I hope you enjoyed the little insight that I had, and apologies that I couldn't get more like dramatic footage of the place. As I say, I didn't want to be too intrusive on the group, and I hope you like this new concept, this new channel. I'm going to try and create as much content as I can for this one as well. I think the next one I'm probably going to do is talking about my experience starting Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and why I wanted to do that, what I've learnt from it, and what my plans are with that.